you can't count on people. I learned the message that if you want to do something, you have to do it by yourself. Welcome back to a special episode. Now, I'm recording this episode in the context of a couple of things. And one of them is my birthday. So, I would say maybe this is a lead into my birthday episode. But also, I wanted to share some fun things that have been happening and some new things that are coming up. So, for some of you who listen to the podcast, you may know that a couple of weekends ago, I did my second TEDx talk with TEDx Asheville. And I'm so excited. One of the things that I really took away is the power of community. And if you listen to me on my podcast, if you've ever heard me guest on a podcast, it's one of the recurring themes that I speak about often is community and relationship. And the talk that I did was about repairing relationships. The video will likely be out sometime in late April or early May. And when that happens, I will be sure to let you know. And there are some fun things that I'm going to be doing around when this TEDx talk releases, some conversations around repair, some conversations around how we communicate with one another. And I'll be bringing together community to be able to dialogue all around what we cover, what I've covered in this talk. So stay tuned for that. But one of the things that I took away was this piece of community and how powerful communities are when they come together, how powerful voices are when we come together. And so it was such a beautiful experience. I had people who came from all parts of the United States, and it was life giving for me. And it's one of the things that I have evolved over the years is my capacity to receive love inside of communities and receive support inside of community. People came from Atlanta, from Nashville, from Dallas, from Maryland, from Pittsburgh, and then from Charlotte. And even I had a friend who was in Asheville. So people came from all over. I had someone who was coming from Alabama, who just from all over to support. And for all of the people who made it, there were so many people from all sides of the globe who were standing also on that mat with me, who were cheering me on the entire time, who were texting me, who were calling me. So for all of that, for all of you all who were there physically and who were there spiritually and emotionally for me, I say thank you. And so one of the places, as I was sharing, is that I've evolved around is this space of being with and being in community. And it does take not only being in right relationship with myself, being in right relationship with my family, and also just being willing to evolve over time what's important to me, or not even just being willing but allowing the evolution of that, because I am a recovering lone ranger. And what that means is I am the oldest child, and so fairly independent. I'm also an Aries sun sign by astrology, right? And so we tend to have that independent streak. And I come out of a family with a mom who was super independent. And I learned she owned her own business. She was a single mom for a little while, and then she got married, and then she was a single mom, and she got married, and then we grew up in a two-parent household for a bit, but she was still very independent. And she's an oldest child. And so I learned the message that you can't count on people. I learned the message that if you want to do something, you have to do it by yourself. And I built my I went through my whole life and built my career that way. I was a solo practitioner in an integrative medicine practice for 10 years. And really, it's only been in the last 14 years of my life that I have begun to evolve through and be inside of community. But really, in the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years, have I evolved in a different kind of way, not just being in community, but allowing community to support. I would say the last 10 years since my son was born, since I became a mom, because they are, especially as the primary parent, the primary residing parent with Delson's father is active and we're friends, but he lives in a different state. So Delson resides with me. And so is the primary parent right now with little family in the city which where I reside. I've had to allow for community and be intentional about building that community and discerning that community. And so I'm speaking about this personally, but this has also happened in my career as well, evolving what's important to me. Before I became a mom, what was most important to me was really building my career and this huge impact that I wanted to be as a healer. Really, I was an integrative medicine specialist at that time, and I was really committed to having people recognize the value of integrating in Western style practice and other more natural holistic styles of practice. And I feel like I was successful in raising that awareness. And now not that I did it by myself, but now this is something that has come into larger awareness. And so I was a part of that ripple. And then what happened when my son was born is my values evolved. My values moved into family and being the best parent that I could be and breaking cycles of harm. And so, even though I'm still a healer, I'll always be a physician, I'll always be a healer, my healing evolved as my values evolved. And I even evolved inside of community being a space, but I was still having Lone Ranger tendencies, okay? Let's just be honest. I still had these Lone Ranger tendencies. But in the last couple of years, and specifically in the last year, something has been shifting in a very positive way. As I leaned into social justice and I've been leaning into healing with that justice lens and in a larger way, healing of communities, I've had to allow myself to be in community and be transformed inside of community. And I have to give a shout out to the community I was in in 2025, Mosaic Changemakers, and my fellow mofos, who was our cohort, because it was in the last year being inside of that community and allowing that I feel like my values are maturing. I feel like I'm even maturing in my big old age of 50, almost 51. And so I say all this to say that personally, and there's a big overlap in my work community, in my professional community, as a mom, there's a maturation of values that happens. There's a maturation of evolution. As we mature, our values evolve. As we evolve, our values evolve. And I think it's important to recognize that is okay. So I shared with you earlier this episode that when I had my son, family and breaking cycles became a high value. And I'm moving into this season of legacy. I'm asking myself the question, what am I leaving behind? Not just for my son, but for the whole next generation of physicians, clinicians, of leaders, of young people, my son's friends, and like as a neighborhood auntie, because I am that neighborhood auntie, and as an auntie in general, what am I leaving behind? So now these things are starting to evolve. And of course, this podcast is going to be one of the things that outlives me, I imagine, right? That'll be around when that time comes, given that the internet's forever. And as I speak of evolution and all the things that are coming up with the TEDx and the conversations, you might notice a change and an evolution that we are embarking upon on this podcast. So the has been behind beliefs, behaviors in the brain, and we have gone through a little bit of a transformation, a little bit of a upgrade, a little bit of a rebrand. And so you might notice the name change to beliefs, behaviors, communication in the brain. That makes sense because what do I talk about? I talk about beliefs, I talk about our behaviors, human behavior, I talk about communication, and I talk about the neuroscience of all of that. And you're going to notice that the name might change. You're going to notice that even the graphics might change a little bit. We're getting a little bit of an upgrade. But what that means is our podcast is evolving as we evolve. And it's still going to be the same fun podcast with amazing people who are being interviewed. And I'm still going to be bringing the value that I bring in my solo podcast and as many learnings as I possibly can, and do a little bit of storytelling as well. And you'll notice that difference. So just allow for your own evolution and know that even as we evolve, what we do will become more rich and what we provide will become more rich. And know that as you evolve, what you provide becomes more rich, comes with more depth, and what you leave behind becomes even more significant and valuable. Whatever you're doing as you evolve into new careers, new stages of life, new stages of parenthood, new stages of relationship, being in community, changing communities, that's you evolving as you grow, as you mature, evolving as you heal. So I'd love to hear your feedback on your evolution. But how do you like the new podcast name? How do you like the new graphics? Let us know. It's a similar, not we're not going over the top, but it's similar. So let us know how you like it. Share this episode because even though we're talking about evolution of the podcast, I want people to recognize that it's okay to allow the evolution of values and the maturation of values. They change. Sometimes we feel like this is value, you have to stick to it. But we are evolving beings and it's okay to allow things to evolve over time. So let me know what you thought of this episode. Leave a review. Share this episode with at least one other person, a friend, a family, a colleague. Repost it on social media. Let people know how important it is to allow for your evolution. All right. So we will see you on the next podcast. Be great in your evolution. And until the next time I see you, stay empowered.